Chapter 3. Professor Okong receives the delegation from Abazon and takes pictures with them as instructed by His Excellency. Chris calls Ikem, asking him to send over a photographer to him as the editor-in-chief of the National Gazette. Ikem is not happy with the suggestion because he wonders, when has any delegation from Abazon become peaceful and one of goodwill, as branded by the government? In addition, he does not believe that the story appearing on the front page of the National Gazette will create any impact on the predicament of the people. He refuses to obey Chris's instruction as editor-in-chief and reminds him that it is his reputation that is at stake. On the other hand, Chris tells him that the decree of newspaper amendment gives him the prerogative as commissioner for information to decide what is to be printed on the National Gazette. Chris decides to put the instruction in writing, knowing that Ikem is very angry. When he calls back, he does not pick the phone. He orders the secretary to pick the phone, and the secretary lies that Chris is not on set, only to regret later on when she learns that it was Ikem on the other end. The atmospheric condition of the month of April is vividly described. The weather is harsh, yet the forecaster says the contrary. Ikem drives to the presidential palace, and despite the short distance, he has already spent an hour and 15 minutes because of terrible traffic. Drivers take advantage of the smallest space amidst insult. Ikem gets into a fight for space with a persistent taxi driver, and Ikem overpowers him at the end. Many people will want to take care for the fact that they don't want their cars to be scratched, but Ikem does not care if his car is crashed or not. That very night, Ikem writes a poem in which he dedicates to the sun, entitled Hymn to the Sun. The first part of the poem is celebratory, as it refers to the sun as the eye of God. He supplicates the sun to be merciful to the people because the heat has been unbearable. Despite sacrifices that have been performed, the sun has not been merciful, and it has caused a lot of deaths. He also begs the sun to spare itself of the pain to destroy itself. The trees have all dried up, and living structures like anthills that have survived to tell the new grass about the previous year's bush fire. Everything around them is dying up, especially animals, and stray dogs and vultures are feeding on the carcasses even of the madmen who used to stroll around the town. No one can understand why the sun takes pleasure to maltreat the earth in the manner that it does. In retrospection, Ikem traces how the earth had dried up to the land, depriving the people to bury their dead. The people had abandoned their dead and slept on mats in open air. They had also abandoned their ancestral land to take on a perilous journey in search of better land. Many had died on their way out of exhaustion, and many had been abandoned because they could not be able to make the journey as the others escaped from death. They had met a small village called Ose, attacked it, killed everyone, drank the dirty water from their wells, and renamed the place Abazon. There is a new drought in Abazon, but unlike the first one in the past, the people have nowhere to go to. This is the reason why the people have sent a delegation to come and see His Excellency to seek for help. From this chapter, we can take note of the following. There is a disagreement between Chris and Ikem on whether or not the visit of the delegation should be published on the National Gazette or not, highlighting conflict. Take note of the harshness of the sun, which has a bearing to the predicament of the people of Abazon. The poem is a dedication to the sun, which gives life, yet it also causes misery. The narration of the previous drought that had chased the people from their ancestral land brings out retrospection. The suffering of the people of Abazone highlights suffering and also brings out pathos. Lastly, Chris asking Ikem to handle the Abazone visit with such casualness affects Ikem, who is concerned about the plight of his people.